Saving Fiona, the story of the world's most famous baby hippopotamus, by Thane, Maynard. This is Fiona. She is a baby hippopotamus, but not just any baby hippopotamus. She is the first premature hippopotamus to be raised by humans. She is a survivor. This is her story. There had not been hippos at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens for 20 years. People really love hippos. Their big, round bodies and storybook appeal made them the most requested animal at the zoo. When the zoo planned to build a new African animal habitat, making a space for the hippos was a top priority. One thing hippos need is water. Lots and lots of water. The water in the 70,000-gallon hippo pool in Hippo Cove is 100% rainwater, collected and saved every time it rains in Cincinnati. To keep the water clear so visitors are always able to see the hippos from all sides, the zoo makes use of the biggest pool filter in town. The first residents of Hippo Cove were 17-year-old Bibby and 34-year-old Henry. They arrived in 2016. Bibby had only lived with female hippopotamuses. Henry was the first male hippo she'd ever seen. Henry had lived with many hippos, male and female. He had even fathered some babies. Everyone hoped that Bibby and Henry would get along and have some babies of their own. Not long after the pair were introduced, there was good news. Bibby and Henry were going to be parents. Scientists from the zoo's research team conducted the world's first ultrasound on a Nile hippopotamus. Because hippos have a thick layer of fat to insulate them for their life in the water, nobody was sure if the ultrasound would even work. But a scientist slid under Bibby's huge belly, and sure enough, you could see a spinal cord and even little hippo feet. The zoo staff continued to monitor Bibby throughout her pregnancy. Soon, there would be a baby hippopotamus at the Cincinnati Zoo. But sometimes things happen too soon. Bibby's caregivers noticed that though it was 2 months early, Bibby was acting as though she was going to give birth. She had no appetite. She was swimming continuously and doing barrel rolls. Her body showed signs of labor. They rushed to her area in Hippo Cove, where they got a big surprise. Even though Bibby wasn't due to give birth until March, lying there on the ground was the littlest hippo anybody had ever seen. It was January 24th, 2017. At only 29 pounds, the baby hippo was about the size of a heavy football. Hippos are normally 3 times that size at birth and very active. In the wild, hippos are born in the water and can climb right up onto their mom's back. They even nurse underwater. This little hippo had the entire team shocked. Being a preemie, the baby just lay there. She was too weak to stand and certainly couldn't climb. A first-time mother, Bibby looked at the baby with mild curiosity. A team of specialized caregivers was assembled, including the zoo's hippo keepers, a nursery staff of baby animal experts, and an animal health team of veterinarians, veterinary technicians, and the zoo nutritionists. Team Fiona was committed to saving the baby hippo's life, whatever it took. After talking it over, they decided to name the female baby hippo Fiona, after the lovable princess with the wiggly ears from the movie Shrek. The zoo decided to share Fiona's struggles with the world via social media. Everyone soon fell in love with the little hippo. They rooted for her and sent supportive and positive vibes her way when she needed them most. Team Fiona grew and grew. The team knew that someone had to stay with the baby around the clock, literally holding her to keep her warm. A special area in the hippo barn was set aside for the baby to live in until she began to grow. The building had a heated floor, and the heat in the room was cranked up to 98 degrees to make sure she didn't get chilled. Even her little pool became a hot tub filled with water of nearly 100 degrees. The first dilemma was getting Fiona to nurse. As in the cases with all infant and mammals, it would be best for Fiona to drink her mother's milk. But Bibby is huge, over 3,100 pounds, and tiny Fiona couldn't reach her to nurse. The team found the biggest breast pump on the market, but that idea didn't work. So a scientist slid under Bibby again, just like they had when they first saw Fiona in an ultrasound, and hand-milked her like a cow. The team was able to get some milk. Fiona was able to drink a little of Bibby's milk, giving her important antibodies from her mom, and the zoo's nutritionist sent milk samples off for analysis to the milk repository at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. They learned for the first time that hippo's milk is much higher in protein and lower in fat than human milk, so every day a special formula was mixed up and heated for Fiona to drink. But it was difficult to keep Fiona interested in feeding, and sometimes she would have a difficult time breathing. You can imagine how much Fiona did not like the oxygen tube or cannula in her nose. The zoo's nursery keepers know that the key to raising a healthy baby animals are making sure the baby gains weight and stays hydrated. At about 1 month old, Fiona wasn't looking so good. She didn't have much energy. She wasn't eating, and even worse, she wasn't keeping down what little food she did eat. It takes a village to raise a premature hippo. Someone on the zoo staff shared that when her own daughter was sick and needed fluids, her hospital called in a specialized vascular access team to find her tiny veins, and her daughter recovered. So when the zoo reached out to the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, they sent their special vet nurses right over to put in a hippo IV. It took a couple of tries because Fiona pulled the first one out. But eventually the IV stayed in for a week, and Fiona was finally well hydrated. She started gaining weight and becoming more active. Fiona had turned a corner. Fiona began putting on 2 to 3 pounds a day and graduated 2 more pool sizes as she grew. Once she was a few months old, she began living in the area adjacent to her mother and father so the family could begin bonding. At this stage in her young life, Fiona still spent much of her time with her keepers and other members of Team Fiona, who would swim with her, play with her to give her some exercise, and feed her bottles of specially prepared formula. It was the only way to keep her healthy. Her caregivers and the zoo's mammal curator worked up a step-by-step plan for Fiona. She began by learning to push off the bottom of the big indoor pool, chaperoned by keepers in case she couldn't navigate the deeper water or get in the surface to breathe. Then Fiona started spending time with Bibby indoors, giving them a chance to get to know each other better without the risk of water. Fiona did amazing things with Bibby, such as exploring her mouth, which made everybody a bit nervous, and Bibby was proving to be a great hippo mom. The world celebrated these milestones right along with Fiona's care team. People couldn't get enough of videos and photos that the zoo shared via social media. They demanded a daily Fiona fix. The next big hurdle was the outdoor pool, where the water is 9 feet deep. Little Fiona was less than 2 feet tall, and even though hippos spend all day in the water, resting and staying cool, they can't actually swim. They are so dense they would sink right to the bottom. Instead, they walk along the bottom of rivers and pools and propel their bodies in the water surface to breathe. An adult hippo can hold its breath for about 5 minutes, but Fiona's lungs were not developed enough to do that. So at first, Fiona would go out with her keepers, which was as much fun for them as for her. Hippos are built for a life in the water, and keepers soon saw that Fiona was no exception. She loved the pool. Then came the big day everyone had looked forward to, with a little sadness. When Fiona was about 4 months old, it was time to let her explore the big pool with Bibby. This would mean the end of the daily swimming and contact with her keepers, who had raised her since her unexpected beginning. Fiona did great with her mom and had fun in the pool, playing and bouncing around underwater every day. It was clear that her keepers missed her more than she missed them, which is a good thing since she will spend her life with hippos, not people. The grand finale was the family reunion when Henry, Bibby, and Fiona started spending time in the pool together. Fiona continued to play and be a very active little hippo. By the time she was 6 months old, she weighed over 400 pounds. Sometimes Fiona settled down in the shallow end of her pool, staying cool while she takes a nap. Everyone at the Cincinnati Zoo agrees that we've learned a lot from Fiona. We feel like we are experts on hippo ultrasounds, hippo milk, and everything else you need to know to raise a premature hippo for the first time. But mostly we learned that love carries the day and makes the impossible possible. Fiona taught us all to never give up.